Now, when it comes to AI, as I said, I am also a heavy user. Context matter. If you don't explain to, or if the AI doesn't have the context, it can't cook things up. And you folks are also introducing the concept of context store. Talk a bit about what it is and how is it different from traditional API or data pipelines, and why does it matter for production AI systems?
When we think about where is the data living today, so it is living in a database. It is living in a Google Drive. It is living on Stripe, on Salesforce, on any kind of systems that act as a system of record. Now, these systems have been built for UI consumption. So a human going on a UI, manipulating the system, changing it, etc., etc. And yes, you also have API in case you have like specific automation that you want, but they operate at a very low scale in terms of how much is being used, etc., etc. So these APIs have not really been designed and built for agentic consumption, where suddenly you have something that operates really fast that needs to discover the world around them. And this is what the contextor is all about. It's giving you a way to discover this information without you doing like a sequence of if, then else, if, then else. It's just going to discover what's available, and it's going to be able to just, oh, there is this piece of information on Salesforce. You know what? I see that there is this other system available, Zendesk, and let me see what's happening on the Zendesk side. And all this interaction, if they are gated by API, or if you just put, you mentioned MCPs that are not working, like MCPs don't work when they are just a very thin layer in front of an API, because then you're just back in the old world of you have rate limits, you have pagination, you have access management, you don't have search, you don't have the ability to do that discovery. And this is where the contextor actually enables this agent. It's just, it allows the agents to behave with this organic knowledge that it might have by just pulling different string, discovering what's available, and then making the best decision based on how it was prompted or the different type of workloads that were defined around them. The other piece is on everything that is what we call write. So the ability to interact with this upstream or downstream system. If you just let the agent interact directly with the API, it might not have all the information necessary to make the right API call, or it might mess up. It might write the wrong information. But the more it's able to cross-reference data across the silos, the better the write is going to be. And yes, there is always like the technical piece of it, which is making sure that you're making the right API call. But the logic of what data you put into this write is never coming from just one singular system. It's coming from a multitude of places where data and context is actually stored. So that is why, when we're thinking about the contextor, we always approach it from this, what we call the agentic data loop, which is first you need to discover and search. Then you're able to write, to read this information. And then you're able to write, and then you continue that loop and you go over and over and over again.
Let's talk about trust a bit. If an AI agent is making decisions or taking action based on the data from your system, how do you ensure data quality, lineage, auditability in a way that enterprise can actually rely on?
I think we go back to this idea around governance. It's just that we need to expand it to not just humans making action, but having actually synthetic roles that are making these different actions. And after that, the same thing is going to come into play. Is like, how do you audit what information was accessed? How do you audit what information was written? And having all these logs and monitoring of all of that. And you can also encode specific rules that your agent is going to be relying on, whether they are prompt or whether they are just deterministic workflows on what the agent can and cannot do. But at the end of the day, it's going to come down to auditing every single action that is being taken by your agent, and potentially having an agent auditing that audit logs to make sure that nothing wrong is happening. So in terms of permissioning and auditing and governance, we come down to the very similar type of processes, just is going to be higher scale. So we probably need to overlay additional information on top of that and potentially connect that to evaluation systems, defining new rules, defining new constraints that are then being encoded into the agent. But the thing that is very important when we're thinking about agents is they're going to make mistakes. And that's the reality of things. And it doesn't matter if today we're using LLM or tomorrow we're using another generation of models. It is going to make mistakes. But the same way humans make mistakes, we should just accept that there is an operational risk whenever these decisions are made. The thing that you gain by having agents running on top of that is that the speed at which you can solve these problems is much higher. And as long as you have a system that detects that there are mistakes, the same way you detect them when a human is making a mistake, it's a net positive because you will be able to fix them at an unprecedented speed.